Hello everyone, this is Shel from Paper Octio Studio, and today I'm sharing with you a collage mixed media canvas that is in the paper painting style. This is something that I do using small bits of paper to create highlights and shadows and colors on a canvas. And this particular one is completely covered in bits of paper. Sometimes I will do an acrylic background and then just paper paint the focal image like the red octopus one, which I will link in the upper corner and down below so that you can know what I'm talking about. But this one I completely covered in paper, which is something that I also do, but I've been doing this for a while and I don't think I have another video where I completely covered the canvas in paper. I did that before I did YouTube. This is a commission and it's for some twin grandsons, and so I want to use very bright colors and a lot of color saturation, which I like anyway, but this isn't going to be a realistic sea turtle. This is a sea turtle, by the way, and then it's a pair of twins, so I'm going to be making an octopus canvas, same size, same colors. So I'll be basically using the same papers, just an octopus instead of a sea turtle. So if you want to see that video as well as this one, please leave me a comment below. Otherwise, I probably won't put that one up because it's going to basically be exactly the same technique. But if you just want to watch it, if you think it's fun to watch it, I will do it. I haven't started it yet, so I haven't filmed it. So I'll wait until you guys leave me comments to find out if I should film it or not. So because I want to use bright colors and it's not going to be pink, it's not going to have bling, it's going to be more of a boy style. I'm not sure the age of these boys. I'm guessing maybe they're just purely guessing they might be between 8 and 10 or something like that. So that's the reason that I picked the Dylusions paints. You know, Dylusions acrylic paints are bright. There just isn't anything any brighter than that. So go Dylusions, go Diane. I really like them. So I'm using London Blue, turquoise, whatever it is called, the grass green, and the squeezed lime to begin with. And that is for my background. And what I'm doing is what I call an underpainting. I'm going to be using, for my collage, I'm going to be using deli paper. And deli paper is translucent. So it will be painted deli paper because I'm going to jelly print it like you see here. This is me using up the excess paint by making some collage papers. So what I'm doing is I am jelly printing onto deli paper. And I will make several pieces of paper. And by the way, for those of you who are into reducing waste, these deli papers that I'm using, they are not fresh, clean ones from the box. They're the ones that I've been using for either the under paper that I've been using. It reduces glare. I put something under when I'm doing projects on my desk when I'm filming because it reduces the glare off the craft sheet. Or they're the ones that I've been tucking in between the pages to protect the other pages in my art journal. And for those of you who watch my channel, you know I just did 30 pages last month. So I have a lot of these papers left. And so I'm using those and I'm jelly printing onto them because, you know, they just have bits and bobs of scribbles and little bits of, you know, splattered paint or whatever on them. Just reusing those to make my papers to collage with. And I'm using the jelly plate to do that, the 8x10. So now I'm continuing my underpainting by painting the focal image and the foreground at the bottom there using the red, orange, and yellow from Dylusions and some white acrylic. This isn't a perfect painting. This is just to get the colors where they need to be so that when I collage over the top of it, with the deli paper, which is translucent, there won't be white underneath it. There'll still be, it'll add an additional layer of paint by having that underpainting and then collaging over the top. I hope that makes sense. So then some more jelly printing. Um, I do end up, I make a lot of papers because I do plan to use basically the same papers for the octopus that I will make. That is the other canvas that goes with this one. Um, and I'm using trash tools. I'm not, I did use one triangular stencil, but other than that, I'm using ones that I've made out of trash, and that's toilet paper, tubes, caps from water bottles. I use some netting. Um, what else? I'm not sure, but I'm not using any like stencils or package stuff like that. I just go ahead and use trash. Um, I'm still unclear, kind of, about if I'm going to sell this. I'm not selling the video process or anything like that. It's not a class, but I am selling the commissioned piece, and so I want to make sure that I'm not violating any copyrights by using a stencil. That I'm just not sure about stencils, whether if they're copyrighted or not. I just don't know. I'm not exactly sure. So just to be on the safe side, I'm using mark making tools that are not copyrighted by anyone. They're just trash that I've made. Bubble wrap. And when I did the bubble wrap, the interesting thing was is that there was paint left on it, and so it got onto the plate, which gave me those crusty bits that I like. You know, I like that a lot. Also, in addition to the Dylusions paints, I did use some darker colors that are Liquitex Basics colors to deepen my palette, because if I have bright orange, I also want dark orange. If I have bright yellow, I also want dark yellow. If I have, dark red, I did some rust, I did some purple, and I did some black even. There's the dark red and the rust, and these will be used as the deeper tones when I'm paper painting. I'm really liking how that blue stuff is coming off the bubble wrap. So I don't show you the entire session of jelly printing, just some of it, but this one came out really nice, so I left it in there. There's the netting. That's from a potato bag. Works really good to make texture. So anyway, back to the paper painting. Now I'm going to sort out some of these prints that I've made, and I just tear them into pieces and kind of put them in piles. This is lighter because it has a lot of white in it. This one's a little bit darker. I've got that real dark London blue, and then I've got the turquoise. I've got some of the greens, and depending on how many layers I put on the jelly print, I really like that one with the turquoise right there. That's really cool. Anyway, depending on how many prints I make over the top, like I print it once, let it dry, print it again with a different color, whatever, will make the intensity of the deli paper change. It will be more intense if there's more layers of paint. Does that make sense? I'm sure it does. So then I just decide, okay, down here at the bottom by the sea floor, I want darker water, right? That makes sense. It would be in more shadow. And then at the top, I'm going to want lighter colors because that's where the light might be coming in. So then I apply my papers accordingly, and I just tear them into little bits. And I'm using my favorite collage glue, which is the Liquitex Matte Gel Medium. Not the light one, but the heavier one. And I'm using an old brush, and I press down with the brush to get the bubbles out. But I'm not at all stressed about texture. I'm fine with the texture. I don't want big bubbles. I want everything stuck down well. But the deli paper has a crinkly texture anyway, because it's already used deli paper, and then the layers of the paint as I'm applying it on there make kind of a crinkly texture. So that's what the final piece is going to have, is a lot of texture, and I like that. That's something that I really enjoy. That's why I started doing these paper paintings to begin with, is because I like it to have something that you can feel, not just paint, but also a texture on it. So I completed the background, and I'm now starting to get some of the red, yellow, orange, little bit of pink collection of papers out that I'm going to be using for the the sand at the bottom, and then of course the turtle itself. So I started with the sand at the bottom. Excuse me. Most of that went off camera, so I don't show you the whole thing. But in fact, I don't show you the whole thing of anything. This project, the footage wasn't even everything because the camera cut out a couple times, was 6.5 hours. So this is not a quick project. This canvas is 9 by 12, so it's not even a very big canvas, but still, it's an intense, long process to do a paper painting, especially if you're doing the entire thing in paper. So I sped this up, sometimes 4 times fast, sometimes 8 times fast, and I cut out large sections of it. I just wanted you to get the gist of what I was doing so that you can understand, and perhaps maybe you want to make a paper painting. I don't know. Whenever I put something like this out, people are like, oh, you have so much patience. I just could never do that. I find this zen-like. It's relaxing to me. I'm thinking about color, I'm thinking about texture, I'm thinking about light and shadow, and I'm in my zone. I don't find this tedious, which is funny because I'm an impatient person. I don't like to wait for glue to dry. I don't like to wait for medium. I don't like things like pouring medium and stuff because it takes 2 days to dry. It drives me crazy. But this I will do. It might be something to do with OCD. I'm not sure. Maybe I'm a little OCD, and putting all these little pieces on is relaxing to me. So the seagrass was fun. I put a lot of layers of greens onto that seagrass because of the translucency of the deli paper and the different layers of paint it had on it. I could have some more intense green, some lighter green, some darker green, even though I only used 2 colors of green, the grass green and the squeezed lime. It still had a lot of variation of color. It was kind of fun. So then the next thing that I do is to trace around onto a clean sheet of deli paper to trace the entire turtle. This is a technique that I haven't seen anyone else do, but I do it a lot. And if you've been watching my channel, you've seen me do it, where I get tired of trying to stick all the little pieces of paper inside the line. Coloring inside the lines, not my thing. Probably didn't do it in kindergarten. I really don't like it. So the way that I get around that when I want to make a clean, crisp line, like on the seagrass, I didn't care. I didn't want it to be a clean, crisp line. I used torn paper. I wanted it to be an interesting background. But for the foreground turtle, I want the edges to be crisp. So I am doing it on a separate sheet of deli paper because deli paper is so thin that it will not matter if there's an extra layer under there. No one will ever know. So I trace around my shapes, and then I do each piece individually. And I'm starting out with his little leg that's on his left-hand side sticking out. And as you can see, I am consciously choosing which color to put where. Starting where the shadow would be on I guess it's a flipper, not an arm. I start with the darker colors down there, then I start to blend into a little bit brighter red, and then an orange, and then a yellow, and a brighter yellow, and then the reflection of the water at the top would be a little bit of greenish color, so I add that. And then I fussy cut out the piece because on the back I can see the drawing, I can see the lines, so I cut around it with some sharp scissors, and then I glue it on to the canvas. And this technique works great. It works great. Makes it easy. Only if you want a crisp line. Sometimes I just really don't want a crisp line. Sometimes I paper piece completely by using torn paper. It just depends on what I'm feeling like that day. So I did decide that this flipper required some darker color at the bottom, so I went in with the purple and added it after the fact. And then I did the two back flippers and put those on. You didn't see that. And then this piece in the foreground where it's his shell underneath, and then his right hand flipper. I decided after the fact that I felt they needed to be done separately, and then I ended up doing the head and the shell separately as well, rather than trying to do them all at once. So I redrew his flipper and am doing that one. Same technique, starting with the purple, then the darker red, then the lighter red, then the orange, then the yellow, and a little bit of green highlights. These are tiny, tiny, tiny pieces of paper. I'm tearing, probably 2 or 3 millimeters maybe of little pieces. And I'm, in most cases, trying to tear them into an approximation of a square shape because they represent that crackly texture that the sea turtle would have. Kind of, obviously his shell is in kind of a honeycomb and squares. But even his skin is got little crackly texture like an alligator. It's not smooth. It's not smooth like a dolphin. It's crackly. So that's the reason that I was using those shapes. Then I decided to do his head separately. And this is the most fussy part because I've got to put in eyes, nostrils, the line where his mouth opens. It's fussy. It's much more fussy. So this little section took me as long as doing all the legs because I had to do it bit by bit. And I did add in some of the shell, I guess it would be the skin under the shell, and then the very top part of the shell onto this particular drawing so that I would have something to blend into. His little face, the very front of it has to be light where it comes out, where the nose comes out, where the lips and the bottom jaw come out needs to be light because that gives you an idea of depth of perception. Lighter, just like if you're drawing a face, you make the lightest tones on the forehead, the nose, and the chin, because those are the places where your face sticks out. Well, this guy has a face too, and his face sticks out. So he's got the yellow colors in the front, but then I go ahead and put some other colors over the top of it to give that crackly texture as well, and to just kind of give his face more interest. I was looking at a picture, but obviously the picture is not red, orange, yellow, purple. Because that's not realistic. This is more of whimsical colors for a sea turtle. They're more, green and brown and colors like that. But I wasn't going for realism at all. I was going for fun, interesting, whimsical, but not silly. Not exaggerated or cartoonish at all. Just, I don't know. It's a style. I'm not sure what to call it. So then I cut out his little eyes. I think he has alien eyes. But a real sea turtle does have eyes like that. They kind of look like alien eyes. Kind of an alien looking creature, really. Very reptilian when you look at them. And for some reason we seem to think that aliens from outer space would kind of look like reptiles. I don't know why we think that as a culture. It's kind of funny. Okay, so there's his little face. And the last thing left is to do the shell. So I decided to redraw it because the way the things ended up coming up, it was the one that I had already drawn was a little bit too small. So I'm going to use it as kind of a reference and then do the shell. The shell was fun because the way that I did it, I I wanted there to be a light color in between each little section, little honeycomb section tile of his shell. I mean, obviously it's not a tile, but you know how it goes up? It's bumpy. It's a lower place, an upper place, a lower place. If you were to touch it, it's not completely smooth. It's got ridges and bumps. So I wanted the lighter color of the yellow to be in between each little tile, and then each one of those pieces to be very, a little bit distinct in color and shadowing. So I put the yellow down first on the lines and then added in the colors around the edges, starting with, the darkest at the bottom and then filling it in that way. But then the ones at the very top, on the top part of his shell, would be, they would be reflecting light from the water, the light coming in. So I made them lighter rather than making it all uniform. And I just tore little squares and stacked them onto each other. It's not one layer, it's several layers stacked onto each other. And that was the funnest part. The shell was the funnest part. The most fun. I guess funnest is not a word. My mother would say, being an elementary teacher, she would say, funnest and funner are not words. More fun. Most fun. Okay, so glued that on. And for it was a big piece, so I put glue on both the back and the front and really pressed it down a lot to make sure that there weren't any bubbles. That was the biggest piece of everything that I put on there. Then for more dynamic, visual dynamic, I added in even more shadows using black. I tend to like black lines around things. I just do. It's just my style. So this is my Stabilo All pencil. This is a highly water reactive pencil, and then it dries fairly permanent. So I'm using it and then blending with water on a paintbrush and blending out those lines and adding in the shadows that way. And I did it all around the turtle, and then I also did some on the sand and also on one side of each piece of seagrass I added a shadow. So technically this part isn't paper painting, right? Because I should be adding my highlights and shadows completely with paper. So I'm cheating. I'm totally cheating, but you know what? I don't care. I like the way it looks. My style of paper painting has evolved since I started doing it. I was such a purist when I started. I would cut little teeny strips of paper. I did a lighthouse, and I was like cutting all these teeny tiny little pieces of skinny pieces of paper to make lines. I'm not as fussy as I once was, and I think that my pieces are more creative and more artistic because of that, because I'm not obsessing over each little thing. So here's my white Posca pen. Same type of an idea. I added in some highlights on his little tiles and things, and then blended the Posca with a wet paintbrush as, before it was dry. It's an acrylic, so you can blend it as well with water. So if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, comment so I know you were here, also to tell me if you want to watch me do the octopus or not, and also subscribe if you haven't already. And if you think this is an awesome canvas, share it. That's it for me. Thanks. Bye-bye.